I had a conversation with a student that is going into first grade. And I said, "Are you excited about going to first grade?" And he was like, "No, I'm afraid that I won't have enough time to complete my test. And I'm also afraid that I won't get the answers correct." Hey, so today we are going to talk about how to build self-efficacy in students so we can increase student engagement. So have you ever asked a question in class and then all you heard were crickets, right? And so whenever I found that whenever students are not participating and engaged in a lesson, it's because sometimes, a lot of the time, it's because they're dealing with their self-efficacy. And so we want to increase their self-efficacy so that we can see an increase in their engagement in class. And so you might say, well, really, what is self-efficacy? And so if we had to define self-efficacy, it's a student's thoughts about if they can answer a question or not. It's their thoughts about if they can answer correctly. So I had a conversation with a student that is going into first grade. And I said, "Are you excited about going to first grade?" And he was like, "No, I'm afraid that I won't have enough time to complete my test. And I'm also afraid that I won't get the answers correct." So what does that tell me? That tells me that we've got to work on that student's self-efficacy. So we're going to talk today about how can we increase a student's self-efficacy or build a positive self-efficacy so that we can see some math engagement or an increase in math engagement and not experience so many crickets, right? So, and if you want more information about self-efficacy, Bandura is a great person to look up. I wrote about it more in my blog, but Bandura is a good person. And one of there's a really good study that I love this study. It's done by John Hattie. But he does a study. It's 252 influences or things that influence student achievement. And one of the ones, like it was 252, but number 15 of things that influence student achievement was student self-efficacy. So what does that tell you? If student self-efficacy has an influence on student achievement, that tells us that that really is an area that we've got to focus on. So, what is one way that we can increase a student's self-efficacy? So one of the things that I found to be really successful in my classes is, growth mindset is really popular right now, right? And so, but a lot of I incorporate growth mindset with some SEL strategies. And I know I've heard it before where teachers feel like they don't have time to teach growth mindset or SEL in their classes. But really, I found that when I incorporate these things into my classroom, I'm not having to spend as much time in other areas. So one of the things is to cultivate a growth mindset culture where it's okay for students to make mistakes. And I do this through using monthly quotes in my classroom and a growth mindset pledge. A really great resource is the Growth Mindset Coach. I read that book about 2 summers ago, and I really started to implement some of the strategies from that book into my classroom. And I've started to see just students, they were more engaged, their confidence, that it went up. But so one of the things, here's what I do. So I'll explain it to you. So each month I have a quote. And I strategically picked out quotes that I felt would really help students that would encourage them in their mindset about math. So each month I have a quote. Let's say one of the quotes that I did was Albert Einstein, right? It's not that I'm so smart, it's that I just stick with problems longer. And one of our, it actually aligns with one of the math practices, right? With persevering, like students being able to persevere in problem solving. So anyway, so that's one of the quotes that I would give students. And so every single day when they sign into class, we read that quote. And so I was a virtual teacher for 2 years. The last 2 years that I spent in the classroom, I was a virtual teacher. And so last year, this is what I would do. So students, they would come in, they would sign in. And when they would sign in, I use Desmos a lot. So they would click the link, go to Desmos, and the first slide that they would see would be a check-in slide. And so they would have to pick the emoji that represented their feeling for the day. And then I had a question either about maybe why they felt that way or about the quote. So if the quote was from Albert Einstein and it is, it's not that I'm so smart, it's that I just stick with problems longer. The question would be, well, what is a skill that you feel like you might need to just stick with longer? And so they would talk about it. We would talk about it in class. What could be our next steps? Where could we maybe find some support in? So just talking them through their struggles. So that's one way that I incorporated a growth mindset. But then even as they are working through those problems in class, I'm constantly saying that quote. If they get stuck, I'm like, stick with, encouraging them to stick with the problem. Be an Einstein. It was so cool because I remember last year, that was our quote the first month. And so all year it was be an Einstein, be an Einstein. Look at you, you little Einstein. And so I would just always encourage them to be an Einstein. And being an Einstein was not associated with being smart. It was associated with effort. So that was one way. Another thing that I got from that book was a growth mindset pledge. So every single day when students signed into class, when class would start, we would say that growth mindset pledge. Today I will have a good learning attitude, be an active learner and grow my brain, and be a mindful problem solver. So that's one way that I encouraged increased their self-efficacy, because our focus was on effort. It was a culture where everyone just wanted to put forth their best effort every single day. And we talked a lot about what happens when they make mistakes in their brain growing, right? And so we just had such a great time when students would make a mistake. They would say, oh, Miss Brown, I just grew my brain, right? Or another student would as a way to encourage someone else who would make a mistake or had a misconception, they would say, you just grew your brain. I showed them, I modeled for them how I had to grow my brain constantly. And so just modeling that for them as well. But they were looking forward to opportunities where they could grow their brains. So that's one way that we can increase student self-efficacy. Another way that we can increase their self-efficacy is providing specific feedback to students. If someone tells you, you look really nice today, okay, you're like, all right, I look nice, but you don't really know what part about you that looks nice so that you can repeat that again, right? But if I say, I really like how you curl your hair today, then the next day, what are you gonna do again? You're gonna curl your hair that same way because that looks nice, right? Well, it works the same way with students. If they're doing work and we see that they are really doing a great job in a specific part of that problem, and we praise everything, right? But it could be they drew a place value chart to solve the problem. The rest of the problem might not be solved accurately, but we praise that one part that they did correctly. I really love how you use the place value chart to solve this problem. So what do you think that student is gonna do the next time they go to solve a problem? They're gonna use that place value chart. And what do you think is gonna encourage the other students to do? It's gonna encourage them to use their place value chart. So making sure that we provide specific feedback for students. I really like how you did this. Maybe next time, let's look at this. So it's building their self-efficacy because they feel confident in what they do know, and they feel confident in they feel comfortable knowing what it is and what specific areas that they need to work on. So providing specific feedback. The third thing that can increase their self-efficacy is providing scaffolded supports. I think about this way. Let's say if you were going on a hike, right? And you went on that hike, but you did not have the necessary gear to have a successful hike. Let's say you didn't have the right shoes on, maybe you had some flip-flops on. You were not equipped to go on that hike. You would not it wouldn't be a very successful hike, right? Or you would from this point on be like not a fan of taking a hike. So I look at scaffolded supports in that way, making sure that students on their journey in math, that they're equipped with the tools that can help them be successful. We don't want to make it easier for them. We don't want to take away the intent of the standard of the grade level, but we definitely want to support them where they need to be supported at. For instance, two of the things that I love to use success criteria, and I love to use anchor charts. So with success criteria, what it is, let's say students have thought through a problem and we've gone through it together. Then we go back and say, okay, what was the necessary thinking, or what thinking happened in order for us to solve this problem? Okay, what do we do first? And so we jot that down. And it's not making it procedural, but it's thinking through the conceptual understanding of what did we have to do in order to solve this problem? Okay, so let's write that down. All right, what was the next thing we had to think about? Okay, so let's write that down. And so we write all of the thinking down, and so that student knows the next time that they go to solve that problem, oh, this is what I need to do. Because I found that too with students who have math anxiety, one of the things that happens is that their brain literally, it gets blocked. And so if they can have something concrete to kind of point back to, that helps with their anxiety when their brain is stuck. So we're not taking the thinking away from them, but we're just helping them to guide their thinking. Same thing with anchor charts. It helps students anchor their thinking, right? So creating that anchor chart with students, but it serves the same purpose, so that whenever they are stuck, whenever their brain is blocked, there's something concrete that they can look at and say, oh, this is where I am. I don't have to freak out. I do have the necessary supports to make this journey successful for me. So that's love success criteria and anchor charts. And the parents have even thanked me for providing those, or providing that support, because they have been able to successfully help their students because that has been provided. So it builds self-efficacy because students, they know exactly where they are in that process, and they can confidently, if they're called on to ask a question, they can confidently say, oh, okay, like this thinking needs to happen. I know that's where I'm at in that process. Let me respond, or let me answer, because I know what's the first part of it that needs to happen. I'm confident in that. Okay, hope this is making sense for you. The fourth one that I have is to make it relevant. Okay, so if you really want to give students something to go run home and tell mama about It is to make a lesson relevant. Oh my word. I remember every year during like when it's Star Wars time, May the 4th, I theme my PowerPoint or my slides. They have a Star Wars theme, and the students, oh my word, they like lost it. They got so excited about it. Even when Among Us became a big deal, I would theme my slides with the Among Us backgrounds. So really just making it relevant for kids, even if you teach a curriculum and your district has said, make sure you teach this, curriculum, don't veer from it. You can still make it relevant for them by making it a theme that that they like. And that's why I love to do the surveys or the questionnaires at the beginning of the school year to know like what are some things that students are interested in, because it helps you make your lessons relevant. One of my friends, Jocelyn over at Custom Teaching Solutions, she is big on cultural relevancy, and so she has a blog. You can check that out. It's Custom Teaching Solutions. She has a blog dedicated strictly towards cultural relevance and making lessons relevant for students. So check that out as well on making your lessons relevant. So if you are saying, that was such a cool idea that you talked about with those PowerPoints and those monthly quotes that you do with your students, if you want to check that out over at my blog, I've already packaged it for you for free to help you get started with using this model in your class. I'm telling you, parents loved it, the students loved it. It was just such a way to build a culture and a community in my classroom where we were all on the same page, and it was a way for us to all encourage each other with those monthly quotes. So if you're saying that you think you want to give this a try, you can definitely check that out over on my site, jbrownedu.com. It's all free for you. If you also want some more resources or some more information on how you can decrease math anxiety in students, you can check out, I have a blog post that I wrote about that as well. So thank you guys for joining today. Go ahead and check those resources out, and I'll chat with you guys next time.